Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 10 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, we're getting the scoop on what fusion energy is and why it could solve our fossil fuel energy woes from experimental plasma physicist Steffi Diem, a fusion energy researcher who studies ways to heat plasma to temperatures 10 times hotter than the sun and store it in magnetic bottles for fusion energy development. Steffi shares the reasons she's optimistic about the future of nuclear energy. Think a bathtub of water, a handful of lithium batteries, and creating more energy out than you put in. It's all quite exciting. Let's head over to Steffi in conversation with Maryam Pasha live at TED 2025 to hear more. Also, whilst I have your attention, we're going live with Climate Curious in London on the 23rd of June. You can grab your tickets via the link in the description, and we hope to see you there. Stay curious.
Can we just start really basic? What is fusion energy?
Okay. So fusion is actually happening every day in the sun. So in the core of our sun, it's heating up hydrogen, heavy forms of hydrogen, to millions and millions of degrees. It sticks together and then it forms helium. And in that process, it actually releases a ton of energy. Yeah.
And this is different than like the stuff we already have like in nuclear reactors or nuclear bombs or like
right. This is totally the opposite.
Right?
We're sticking light things together.
Okay, because the other thing is you're breaking them apart.
Yep.
Okay, and this is I know a little bit because I'm now
you got
this is the safer type.
So this is
right?
So
except it happens on the sun.
So there's no runaway process at all. You have to impart energy to make these heavy forms of hydrogen to stick together. But if you're not putting energy into the system, it just stops.
Interesting. Okay, this is very. I'm ready to get into this.
It's good.
Now, why would we what does it have to do with climate change? And okay, I understand that this is like a process that happens on the sun, but what does that have to do with us here on Earth?
Right. So if you look at like the whole like energy resources in this reaction, we're just talking about using heavy forms of hydrogen, and then it puts out helium. And I'm going to do a comparison for like how much energy you need to power your whole entire lifetime, right? Okay. So let's go with coal. You need to burn 280 tons of coal to provide energy for your lifetime. This is your car, your house, all your electronics and things like that. And that gives off 380 tons of greenhouse gases.
It's a lot.
A lot. To get equivalent amount of energy from fusion energy, you need the amount of heavy hydrogen found in 2 bathtubs full of water and the lithium from 6 laptop batteries. And no greenhouse gases are released. Right? So it's kind of like mind-blowing numbers.
Yeah, it is mind-blowing numbers. I'm going to come back to those numbers in a second. I almost need a minute to absorb what you're telling me. I have seen in the news in the last 12, 18 months some little bits around how we're making breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
With this kind of fusion energy. Where are we at with it? What's how close are we to actually being able to do something with this? Is it still really researched? Where are we?
That's a really great question. So for a while, it was just we were doing research to create the conditions for hydrogen to fuse here on Earth. And it requires temperatures over 100 million degrees, which is 10 times hotter than the sun.
Nice. So excellent. This sounds extremely simple.
Exactly. Engineering at the extremes. We either use lasers that we focus to implode and get it to fuse together, or I create very large magnetic bottles that capture it and hold on to it so it gets hot enough and long enough to fuse. And so in 2022 was when the first time scientists on Earth demonstrated for the first time that could actually create more energy out than they put in to actually get the hydrogen to fuse.
Wow.
Yeah. Right? And so once you demonstrate that's possible, that was the major breakthrough.
Okay.
Now we're working on materials that can withstand those extreme environments and extracting the energy. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the way we generate electricity or energy is cleaner ways to boil water to generate steam.
This is, I think, okay. and I'm not, my brain wants to really go down this tangent of asking like about the materials, because I keep thinking, what could you possibly build that could hold that? But I'm not going to do that, because I think the more interesting thing I've realized in having this conversation is I probably don't really understand how we make energy now.
Yeah.
And how this is different. So can you just give us like a little like crash course on that?
So a lot of what we do right now is through chemical reactions that happen at like thousands of degrees, and we're just burning things to generate steam, to turn a turbine, to then generate electricity. And so we're replacing that burning part.
Like what? Like is that like the combustion engine? Is that like basically what it is in a way?
It's a little bit different because the combustion engine is like has pistons and things like that.
Okay.
This is like you have steam come out, turns a turbine, and then that creates electricity in there and through the movement of the turbine. And then that goes to the power grid.
I can kind of imagine this. Yeah, I can kind of imagine this.
Yeah.
And so that's that we do that in various fancy ways.
Yes.
And this is about this is different because
it's way hotter.
Way hotter.
Way
and you're
hotter.
bringing things together and you're fusing them together.
Yeah.
And
that releases a lot of energy.
I think it's like one of those things where as a layperson, the idea of putting things together and it releasing energy feels like very counterintuitive. It would feel like if you stick things together, it would just stick things together.
Right. That's a really great question. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, right?
Our favorite of equations.
We're going back to that one. Okay. What it really means is that mass is not lost. It's just transferred into energy, right?
You don't ever lose anything.
Exactly. So if you measure what went into the fusion reaction and then you compare it to the weight of the helium, it looks like it lost weight. It's lighter. It's lighter, but that small amount is actually directly it's transferred to energy.
Right. Okay. So it's like, I understand. This is, I mean, I do understand actually. I'm hoping others understand.
But we very rarely talk about what Einstein's equation is,
yes.
right? And practical uses of it.
And so let's talk about that. Practical uses. What's the hope here? Like, what could this mean?
So what does this mean? That's why a lot of what I do is trying to realize it and make it economical and approachable for everyone, is that if you have a form of energy that's based on hydrogen that's available to everyone around the world, that could be transformative, because a lot of our geopolitical tensions and wars are around access to energy and energy resources.
Is it cheap to do this? Like, I mean, this is a silly question because obviously right now there's loads of technology that needs to be developed. But I guess what I mean is it feels like extractive energy sources are finite. Like we only have so much oil, we only have so much gas, but we have like renewable is more, I guess, infinite in a way. With this kind of energy, like how is it something we would run out of? Are the things that go into it really cheap? Like tell me a bit about that.
So that's a really great question. Even renewables, they rely on finite materials and minerals here on Earth, right?
Yes.
And so part of what we're looking at in the fusion space is we know that lithium we also use in fusion. And so kind of looking at projections of how much we would need and how much other markets would need.
Okay.
And how that would plan on, lead to scaling up and things like that.
This sounds very good. What are some downsides?
Some downsides. I mean, it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. I think right now that's one of the bigger downsides.
Okay, right.
The other downside is anytime you have minerals and resources that go into building these machines, you have to think about where you're resourcing that from, ethical mining practices, labor practices, and things like that, and any waste generation.
One of the things I know, because I watched a film about it, is that the problem with traditional nuclear other energy, like fission, I'm very impressed that I remember this, is a waste, right? What about the waste from fusion? What is that, and is that as dangerous?
So that's a great question. There's danger in everything. Just gonna be honest, right?
Yeah.
Anything. So fission, has high level waste. Radioactive waste is where it's radioactive for thousands of years.
Right. Yes.
So fusion does produce some low level activation radioactive waste.
Okay.
And that would have to be stored for about 100 years.
Okay.
So a lot of researchers are looking at how do we design the systems to really minimize that before we fully design the system.
That's very smart. And I guess the idea is that everything does have waste. And 100 years feels like a much more manageable amount of time than thousands of years.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for this science lesson. This has been very cool.
Yeah.
So my final question then for you is, if we get this right, what is the potential for climate change, for addressing climate change, for energy access justice globally? What's your vision?
So the vision is all of our baseload power right now, or most of it, I would say about 80% is carbon based. It's giving off a ton of pollution. Also, we've done little to decarbonize manufacturing. And so we're also looking at, a lot of people talk about fusion energy for electricity, but you can also look at using it for decarbonizing desalination, process heat in manufacturing, district heat, and things like that. A lot of sectors that haven't had something come in to displace the carbon based. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. It sounds like, I think it's really cool because just what you said earlier around how you've been doing this for 20 years and just this like real breakthrough moment so recently feels like it is actually going to mean that, do you imagine that this is something, you may not be able to answer this, but do you imagine that this is a kind of energy we might have access to in our lifetime?
That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's what a lot of governments are doing right now. A lot of them are based on like a 10-year plan to build a demonstration power plant that can generate electricity. And from that, it'll take a while to actually commercialize that.
Right.
But I hope we're getting close to being able to say within our lifetime.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope this podcast is going in 10 years and I hope that we can have you back and you can tell us about this demonstration.
Okay. That would be amazing.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Steffi.
Yeah.
It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
Stay curious.